Hi booktube, Aaron here. Hope you're doing okay. Today I'm going to talk about my 4 literary white whales. This is a thing, a little, um, it's almost like a tag, I suppose, that started off with a video that Daniel from Guilty Feet made about a month or so ago. And it is just talking about 4, 4 books that you've been really meaning to read. And I suppose that there are books that probably holds some kind of cultural sway as well. So they have to be sort of big books, not in page count, but in just sort of in the way people see them. Um, Whether or not that's their kind of really popular books or they're kind of maybe sort of canonical books or things like that. And it's caught on, and loads of people have done it. And when I saw all these videos being made, I thought it was something I'd quite like to do, but just found it really hard to narrow it down to just 4 books because there are so many of these big books, these big works of literature that I'd like to get to, that I just haven't yet. And so I've got 4 here, and they're not just novels. I'm trying to remember whether it's stipulated that they had to be novels. And so I've got a play, a sort of work of epic poetry, and then 2 novels. And so I've tried my best to narrow it down to 4, but I've also got a couple of honourable mentions as well. So the first one is the play, and it's King Lear by William Shakespeare. I don't have it as a little sort of individual volume, but I've got all of Shakespeare here, so I don't necessarily have an excuse for not reading it, or at least I can't say that I don't have it. I've got it here, and I've got all of Shakespeare on my Kindle as well, so I can't say that I can't read it because this is too unwieldy. I've got it on my Kindle as well. But yeah, I've read a fair bit of Shakespeare. I had to read all of the comedies when I was at university, and before then I read Romeo and Juliet, and I think it was Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth at school. And then I had to no, and then I think I just read Hamlet out of my own interest. And I've read some other bits and pieces since. And I suppose I am more drawn to his tragedies, and out of his famous tragedies, I think King Lear is, I mean, I haven't read um, Titus Andronicus yet, have I? Was it Titus Andronicus I haven't read? I'm trying to remember. I think so. But yeah, like really out of the, I think if for his tragedies, the big 3 being Hamlet, Macbeth, and King Lear. Out of those 3, it is King Lear that I haven't read yet. And there's no massive reason why I haven't, other than I just haven't got around to it yet. So I'll try and make that a priority in September. So normally there's an event called Shakestember, where everyone reads Shakespeare plays during the month of September, and we'll see if it goes ahead this year. But even not, I will make an effort to read King Lear, and I also want to reread Hamlet as well. So that's my first literary white whale. Next up, we've got a novel, and that's The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And unlike quite a few of the books on this list, this is one that I only picked it up recently, but it's been kind of nagging at me for quite some time. I think I first heard of Donna Tartt just a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. My sister would send me sort of interviews and things, and just as a like a cultural figure, I found Donna Tartt really quite interesting, really articulate, And then the more I heard about The Secret History as a novel, it really intrigued me. And so, yeah, again, no massive reason why I haven't got to it yet, other than I didn't have a copy. But it's not exactly a hard book to find if you're looking for it. And so yeah, again, that's my number 2, a little more recent. And again, on booktube there are loads of people who have read it and really liked it. I mean, recently I think Shelley Swearingen and Anne Novella both read it and really loved it. And yeah, tons of other people have read it, and people I know in my day-to-day life who have read it have really loved it as well. So I think I will enjoy it. I just haven't thought out when I'll read it. Number 3, this is our work of epic poetry, and again it's a bit of an older one, and it's the Metamorphoses by Ovid. And the main thing that's kind of putting the pressure on me to read this is, I think, mainly just the kind of cultural significance of this book. Just so many other works of literature and works of art, and so many composers have used this as a kind of source material, and have sort of pulled themes and characters and things out of this. And so just for that, it'll be really intriguing, and I would enjoy reading it just for that. But as well, I've heard that it's just really good reading as well, and that it's entertaining, and that Ovid is just one of those great writers that you enjoy spending time with. And so yeah, we'll see how it goes. I definitely found that with Homer. Even though Homer isn't really one person, that there was still a kind of connection, and I enjoyed spending time with the Iliad and the Odyssey. It wasn't just like an intellectual exercise. It wasn't just ticking a box. It was pleasure reading, really. So hopefully it'll be the same again with the Metamorphoses, and I've got it on my Kindle as well. So again, I can read it wherever I am. If I'm in the mood and I don't have my copy with me, then I've got it on my Kindle too. And then the last of my literary white whales, at least on the main list, is The Castle by Franz Kafka. I've got it in this sort of little bind up of his complete novels. And again, it's a complete selection of his novels, not his complete novels, otherwise I wouldn't be holding up a book. But yeah, The Castle is one of those books that I've been telling myself that I'll be reading soon for about 2 years. And so every month when I'm thinking about the books that I want to read, the Castle sort of turns up in my head. And even when I make my sort of end of month videos, and I'm going through my reading plans, even if I don't include The Castle in those videos, I do from time to time, because I keep telling myself I want to read it. But even when I don't include it in those videos, it's probably still crossed my mind that I might want to try and read The Castle that month. And for whatever reason, I just keep putting it off. Initially, I had a little penguin, like quite an old penguin paperback of it that was kind of falling apart. And then just last month, I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. Opened up this edition, and just found that the type was really, really small. So that's the first page of The Castle, and it's just like a Victorian, sort of newspaper. Really, it's just really, really small print, and I could probably cope with it. It just really puts me off reading it that it's that small. I've got on with relatively small type before, but this is probably the smallest type in any book that I've got that isn't, I don't know. So yeah, again, we'll see when I'll get to it. Kafka is one of those writers that even before I actually got to him, he still seemed to be taking up quite a large amount of space in my mind, just from hearing people talking about him, and definitely since reading his short stories. I sort of think about different elements from some of his stories. It seems like almost every day, and if it's not that, it's just little bits and pieces about Kafka's life as well that I just find fascinating. Mark Nash just made a video about sort of books on sort of biographical areas, sort of around Kafka. And so, yeah, he's one of those writers that he's on sort of my short list of writers that I really want to just keep coming back to, and I expect I will keep coming back to again and again in my life. And I haven't read any of his novels yet, so The Castle is just the one that's kind of drawing me the most. But even at that, I keep putting it off. And then before I go, I'll just talk about two more books that I am feeling a bit of that pull to. There's just not quite as much pressure for me to read them. The first is Don Quixote, Don Quixote by Cervantes, and I think I only picked this up. When was it? I think it was at the end of last year. But again, it's one of those books that I've been wondering whether I should or shouldn't read it, whether it's a book that's for me. And just that the more I hear about it, the more I become convinced that it is something I'd enjoy and it is something I would really like to read. I was thinking of reading it for March of the Mammoths this year. It was between that and the Strudlhof Steps by Heimito von Doderer, which, again, this isn't really a white whale for me, so probably wouldn't make it onto a list like this for some time. But in the end, I didn't read either of them because I've been slowly making my way through Proust, and so I just thought I'd stick with Proust. It's big enough. But I just saw, and this is kind of what prompted me to make this video, was I saw Duncan from Back Away from the Donkey, and he just made a video where he was taking up Michael Romeo's challenge, and Michael Romeo was just saying, well, we've made these lists of literary white whales, let's make a commitment to read them this year. And so Duncan, on his list included Don Quixote, and he said he was going to read it in July, I think. And so I'll see how things go, but I'm tempted to try and read it in July, if he's going to be like organising a kind of read along of it. And then very quickly before I go, I'm kind of noticing I'm struggling to speak a bit now. The last one is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafron, and I read the last book in this series called The Labyrinth of the Spirits, and really, really liked it. I really liked his writing style, and just the whole world of that novel, and it's just one of those just great fictional worlds, and I just really loved spending time in it, and really grew quite fond of a lot of the characters, and I didn't realise it was the last book in the series, and so I went back and sort of did my research and found that this was the first book, and that it's just one of those books that loads of people just really, really love. I think it's a lot lighter than the Labyrinth of the Spirits. It's certainly a fair bit shorter as well. And so again, I know this is something that I'm likely to enjoy. But again, there's not too much pressure for me to read this. But I just know I'm really going to love it. It's a book that loads of people have really enjoyed, and I would just like to get to it soon. So there we go. There are my 4 literary white whales and sort of 2, I don't know, slightly smaller whales. And yeah, it was fun to do this and fun to sort through the books that, I have quite a few unread books, which I don't mind at all. And these certainly won't be like the first 4 to 6 books that I'll read next. I'll almost certainly read other things. That's just the way I go. I just go with what I feel like in the moment, but taking a sort of bigger picture view of my reading and the books I have unread, these are certainly, I think, the kind of 6 books with the strongest pull, at least at the moment. We'll see if it changes. But there we go. There are my literary white whales. I'll try to leave some information for some of the videos around this down below. And if you haven't sort of shared your 4 literary white whales yet, then yeah, I'd like to see maybe what you'd be wanting to get around to soon. Anyway, as I said, I'm struggling to talk a bit, not quite sure why. So I'm going to go and have a glass of water. But until next time, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.